The apartment smelled like garlic and desperation. I'd spent 3 hours cooking homemade pasta, roasted vegetables, tiramisu from my grandmother's recipe. My hands shook slightly as I set the table, adjusting forks that didn't need adjusting, checking my phone for the 10th time. They were late. Of course they were late. At 32, I was living in a 400-square-foot studio in a neighborhood my mother would call transitional. Cracked tiles in the bathroom, radiator that clanged at odd hours, a view of a brick wall. But it was mine. First place I'd ever rented without a roommate, without debt strangling me, without pretending to be someone I wasn't. The buzzer finally rang. I smoothed my shirt, took a breath, and opened the door. My father walked in first, surveying the space with the critical eye he usually reserved for construction sites. My mother followed, her smile tight and evaluative. My brother wasn't with them, too busy with his tech startup to visit his failure sister. "Well," Dad said, hands in his pockets, "this is cozy." Cozy, the word people use when they mean small and disappointing. Mom touched the kitchenette counter like it might be contagious. "How much are you paying for this?" $1,200 a month. Her eyebrows rose. "For this?" "Sweetheart, that's robbery." I forced a smile. "Dinner's ready. Please sit." They ate quickly, mechanically. Dad checked his phone twice. Mom complimented the pasta in that tone that actually meant, "This is fine, but nothing special." I asked about work, about the family business, about anything that might generate real conversation. "Your brother's startup just closed a Series B round," Dad said. $3 million in funding. "He's being featured in the Business Journal next month." "That's great. He's doing what matters, building something real." The implication hung heavy, unlike you. After 40 minutes, they made excuses. "Early morning tomorrow. Long drive home." I walked them to the door, trying to hide how much their departure stung. "Thanks for having us," Mom said, kissing the air near my cheek. "Maybe next time we can meet somewhere nicer." I closed the door and leaned against it, hearing their voices in the hallway. "God, that was depressing." Mom's voice, slightly muffled. "She's 32, living like a college student." I told her architecture was a mistake, should have joined the business. "At least Marcus is doing well. One successful child is better than none." Their footsteps faded. I stood there for a full minute, then walked to the window, pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. There it was, posted 20 minutes ago. A family photo at an upscale rooftop bar. Mom, Dad, Marcus, his fiancée. Everyone smiling. Caption: "Celebrating real success stories." They'd gone directly from my apartment to celebrate without me. I sat on my thrift store couch surrounded by half-eaten tiramisu and the smell of burnt ambition. Cried until my face was blotchy. And my throat hurt. Not because they'd left, I'd expected that, but because I'd spent 32 years trying to earn something they'd never intended to give. Their approval wasn't waiting at the end of some achievement ladder. It was conditional, contingent on me being someone else. My phone buzzed. Marcus texting, "Sorry I missed dinner. How'd it go?" I didn't respond. He knew how it went. Everyone always knew. At 2 a.m., still awake, I opened my laptop. Started researching something I'd been curious about for months, real estate investing. I'd studied architecture but never practiced it. Stuck in corporate project management jobs that paid bills but killed dreams. Maybe it was time to stop designing other people's visions and start building my own. I fell asleep with tabs open about property valuation, market analysis, investment strategies. When I woke up, something had shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I was calculating, if they were going to treat me like a failure anyway, I might as well fail on my own terms. Or succeed. Same difference to them. The obsession started quietly. I'd come home from my project management job and immediately opened my laptop, studying zoning laws, property values, rental yields. Covered my walls with printouts and sticky notes, mapping neighborhoods, tracking sales, identifying patterns. My coworkers thought I was losing it. Maybe I was. But numbers made sense in a way people never had. Markets operated on logic. Supply and demand, risk and reward, no hidden subtext about disappointment. 3 months in, I noticed something interesting. The street where my parents lived, Oakmont Avenue, was undervalued. The whole neighborhood sat in a zoning dispute that had been dragging through city council for years. Commercial development was blocked, which depressed property values. But the dispute was nearing resolution, and once it cleared, values would spike. My parents had no idea they were sitting on a gold mine. They just complained about the empty lots and delayed construction, never connecting the dots. I made a spreadsheet. If I could buy properties before the zoning cleared, I'd be positioned perfectly for the boom. The problem was I had exactly $8,000 saved, not nearly enough for a down payment. Unless I found the right property, the desperate seller, the foreclosure, the opportunity everyone else overlooked. I spent 2 more months hunting. Then I found it a duplex 3 blocks from my parents' street. Rundown, water damage, estate sale, asking price, $75,000. I could swing it with an FHA loan and my savings. I put in an offer. It was accepted the next day. The duplex was worse than the photos suggested. Water damage had rotted the floors in 1 unit. The plumbing was ancient. The roof leaked in 3 places. I stood in the middle of what would become my first investment and wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. Mom called that evening. "Your brother mentioned you bought something? A property? A duplex. I'm going to fix it up and rent it out." Silence. Then, "Sweetheart, are you sure that's wise? Real estate is complicated. Your father's been in construction 40 years, and even he wouldn't. I've done the research. Research isn't experience. Maybe you should come work with your father. Learn the business properly before trying to do this on your own. I'm 32. If I don't try now, I never will. That's what worries us. You've always been impulsive." I hung up feeling both angry and uncertain. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was another mistake in a long line of failures. 2 weeks later, a pipe burst. Flooded both units. The repair cost $8,000, my entire emergency fund. I sat in the wreckage, water seeping into my shoes, and wanted to quit. Instead, I called a contractor. Fixed what needed fixing. Put the units on the market. Lost $4,000 on the sale 3 months later, but I learned. God did. I learn. I stopped going to family gatherings, told them I was busy, told them I was traveling for work. Really? I was working 16-hour days, my corporate job during the day, real estate education, and hunting at night. I bought a second property, then a third. Small houses, fixer-uppers, properties other investors ignored, lived frugally, kept the tiny apartment, drove a 10-year-old car, cut every unnecessary expense. My social media went quiet. Family group chat messages went unanswered. At Thanksgiving, I sent a text saying I couldn't make it. Mom replied, "We understand. Let us know when you're ready to come home." Home. Like I was a runaway who'd eventually realize my mistake and return to the family business, grateful and humbled. 2 years passed like this. Silent, solitary, productive. I bought 6 more properties. Learned to spot value others missed. Developed relationships with contractors who gave me fair prices. Built a reputation as someone who paid on time and didn't waste anyone's time. The properties weren't glamorous, but they generated income, and income generated options, and options generated freedom. At 34, I had a small but stable portfolio, nothing impressive by industry standards, but something real, something mine. Then Dad texted, "Your brother just bought a vacation home in Aspen. Thought you'd want to know what success looks like." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it and bought my 9th property. The mentor appeared unexpectedly. I was at a property auction when an elderly man approached me, silver hair, sharp eyes, expensive but understated suit. "You bid smart," he said. "Not emotional." "I like that. Thank you." Garrison Landers. He extended a hand. I knew the name. Everyone in local real estate knew Garrison Landers. He'd built half the commercial district 30 years ago, then quietly sold everything and disappeared into retirement. "Emma?" I said, shaking his hand. "Emma Chen? I've been watching you, Emma. You buy properties everyone else ignores. Why? Because they're profitable if you're patient." He smiled. "Walk with me." We spent 2 hours talking real estate. He asked about my strategy, my financing, my long-term goals. Didn't judge, didn't condescend. Just listened and occasionally offered insights that would have taken me years to learn. "You have potential," he said finally, But you're thinking too small. Individual properties are fine, but real wealth comes from controlling neighborhoods. You understand? I think so. No, you don't. Let me teach you. Over the next 6 months, Garrison became my unofficial mentor. Taught me about land trusts, shell companies, strategic anonymity. Power is quieter when people don't know who holds it, he said. The moment they know your name, they adjust prices. But if you're hidden behind corporate structures, you can buy at fair value. He introduced me to his lawyer, his accountant, his network of quiet investors who understood that real money didn't announce itself on social media. Why are you helping me? I asked once. Because I see myself in you. Same hunger. Same willingness to be underestimated. He paused. Also, because watching entitled families realize they've been outmaneuvered never gets old. I laughed despite myself. What's your target? He asked. I told him about Oakmont Avenue, about my parents, about the undervalued neighborhood sitting on a zoning resolution that would unlock millions in value. He studied me carefully. This is personal. Does that matter? Depends. Personal can make you sloppy, but it can also make you relentless. Which are you? Relentless. Good. Then let's build something they'll never forget. We formed Luna Holdings, named after my grandmother, the only person in my family who'd ever believed I could do something meaningful. She died when I was 22, right before I'd graduated. Her last words to me, don't let them shrink your desped, dreams to fit their fears. Luna Holdings was a Delaware LLC with layers of corporate structure that made ownership nearly impossible to trace. On paper, it was managed by a firm Garrison recommended. In reality, I controlled everything. The strategy was simple: buy properties surrounding my parents' neighborhood, focus on lots and distressed sales, wait for the zoning resolution. Then, develop or sell at massive profit. It would take years. It would take patience. It would take every skill I'd learned rebuilding from that first duplex disaster. But I had something my parents had never given me. I had nothing left to lose. The first purchase through Luna Holdings was an empty lot 2 doors down from my parents' house. Foreclosure sale, bought for $40,000. My parents had no idea their daughter, the failure, who lived in a crummy apartment, now owned property on their street. Mom posted on Facebook, "Construction noise is awful. Who buys an empty lot and just leaves?" I smiled and kept working. My brother's startup went public. The news was inescapable. Local business journals, tech blogs, even the city newspaper ran a profile. Marcus Chen, the 8-year-old who revolutionized cloud storage. Photos of him everywhere. Smiling, confident, successful, everything I wasn't. My parents hosted a celebration dinner, sent a group text to extended family with date, time, dress code. I waited for my invitation. It never came. The night of the dinner, I was alone in one of my rental properties, fixing a leaky faucet. Got a text from my cousin. "Weird they didn't invite you. Want me to say something?" "No." "It's fine." It wasn't fine. But what was I supposed to say? "Please include me in celebrating the son you're proud of while continuing to ignore the daughter you're ashamed of." I finished the faucet, cleaned up, drove home. Sat in my apartment, still the same tiny space, because every dollar was going into properties and ate takeout alone. My phone lit up with photos. The party looked beautiful. Everyone dressed up, champagne flowing, a cake with Marcus's face on it. I closed Instagram and pulled up my property portfolio spreadsheet instead. 11 properties now. Luna Holdings owned 3. Total equity, $400,000. Not enough, not yet. I almost quit. The pressure of double lives corporate employee by day, real estate investor by night was crushing. I was tired constantly, lonely frequently, doubting myself always. Found an old letter from Grandma Luna while cleaning. She'd written it right before she died, meant to be opened when things get hard. Her handwriting, shaky but determined. "Emma, my brave girl, I know your parents don't understand you. They measure success in conventional ways, status, money, appearances. But you were never meant to be conventional. You were meant to build something they can't comprehend until it's towering over them. Don't let them shrink your dreams to fit their fears. Build bigger than they can imagine. Love, Grandma Luna." I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. The next day, I took out a loan against my properties. Remortgaged everything. Used the capital to buy 4 more lots near Oakmont Avenue. Garrison called, "You sure about this leverage?" "No. But I'm doing it anyway." Good girl. The market crashed in 2019. COVID hit. Real estate froze. Everyone panicked. My corporate job laid me off budget cuts. Last hired, first fired. I was 36, unemployed, overleveraged, and holding 13 properties in a market that had just evaporated. My parents called. "First time in 18 months. We heard you lost your job. Maybe it's time to come home. Your father can find you something in the business." "I'm fine." "Emma, pride isn't going to pay your bills. We're trying to help. I don't need your help. You never do." That's always been your problem. I hung up and stared at my financial statements. If I sold now, I'd lose everything. If I held and couldn't make payments, I'd lose everything. Either way looked like disaster, unless I bought more. Foreclosures were flooding the market. People desperate to sell. Properties going for 60% of their pre-crash value. Everyone was running scared. I ran toward it. Bought 3 foreclosed properties using every penny of credit I could access. Interest rates were at historic lows. This was the opportunity of a lifetime disguised as catastrophe. Garrison called, "You're either brilliant or insane. Probably both. That's what I like about you." 3 years later, the market recovered. The properties I'd bought during the crash had doubled in value. The zoning dispute on Oakmont Avenue finally resolved, commercial development approved, property values spiking. I was 39 years old and owned 18 properties. Luna Holdings controlled 9, including 6 on or near Oakmont Avenue. I'd spent 7 years building this quietly, invisibly, while my family assumed I'd failed and disappeared. My portfolio was worth $3.2 million. I had rental income, appreciation, leverage. Everything Garrison had taught me, everything I'd learned through mistakes and persistence, had compounded into something real. I quit trying to find another corporate job, managed properties full-time, hired a small team property manager, accountant, attorney, rented a modest office space. But I kept living in the same tiny apartment, drove the same old car, didn't post on social media, stayed invisible, because I wasn't done yet. My brother got engaged. The announcement came via Instagram glossy photos, champagne, his fiancé's ring probably worth more than all my early properties combined. Mom called, "We're hosting an engagement party. You should come." "When?" "Next Saturday. At the house." Their house. On Oakmont Avenue. The street where I now controlled 60% of the property. "I'll be there." "Really? We thought you'd be too busy with your projects." "I'll make time for family." Silence. Then, "Good. It'll be nice to see you. It's been a while." 4 years. It had been 4 years since I'd seen them in person. I spent the week preparing, had my hair professionally done for the first time in years, bought a simple but elegant dress. Looked successful without being flashy. The party was crowded relatives, business associates, Marcus's startup friends. I arrived exactly on time, blending into the crowd, letting people assume I was someone's plus one. Dad was holding court on the patio, telling construction stories. Marcus was surrounded by admirers. Mom was directing caterers with the precision of a general. I found a quiet corner and watched. Nobody recognized me at first. I'd changed older, thinner, harder around the edges. Dad finally spotted me. His face registered surprise, then something like disappointment that I'd actually shown up. "Emma, you came." "Of course. Marcus's family." "Right. Well, help yourself to food. There's wine in the kitchen." That was it. 4 years and the conversation lasted 15 seconds. I was pouring wine when I heard Dad's voice from the living room, louder than before. The rental hustle, that's what Emma's doing, collecting checks from tenants, not exactly building a business. Laughter. Agreement. Someone said, "At least she's trying something." I drained my wine glass and poured another. Then a neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, from 3 houses down came in, complaining loudly. "Did you hear about these new ownership rules? Some company bought half the block and now they're raising fees, requiring property maintenance standards. It's outrageous. Who do these corporations think they are?" More agreement. More outrage. My father, "I've been trying to figure out who owns what. Company called Luna Holdings keeps buying properties. Probably some out-of-state investor flipping neighborhoods. I smiled into my wine glass and said nothing. The article dropped Monday morning. Local business journal, investigating post-crash real estate investment. Mystery woman buys entire block. A mid-market collapse, strategic genius, or lucky timing? The story focused on Luna Holdings and the Oakmont Avenue properties. Quoted anonymous sources praising the sophisticated strategy and remarkable patience. Included aerial photos of the neighborhood with properties outlined my properties. The family group chat exploded. Marcus, is this near our street? Mom, that's our block. Who is this person? Dad, I'm calling the city. This is probably illegal. Uncle James, Luna Holdings. Sounds like a scam. I watched the messages pile up, didn't respond. Let them spiral. Dad called me directly for the first time in months. Emma, did you see this article? About the real estate investor? Yeah, I saw it. Someone's buying up our neighborhood. Do you know anything about property law? Can they do this? Depends on the specific transactions. Why? Because I want to know who's behind this Luna Holdings. I'm going to find out and give them a piece of my mind about these new requirements. Maybe you should meet with them directly. I plan to. Soon as I figure out where their office is. I paused. I can help with that. You can? Yeah, Dad. I know exactly where to find them. I didn't tell him immediately. Let him stew for a week, making calls, complaining to neighbors, drafting angry emails to the property management company. Then I texted, found the Luna Holdings office. Want me to set up a meeting? His response was immediate. Yes. When? Friday at 10 a.m. I'll send the address. I sent the address of my office. My real office, the one I'd opened 6 months ago and kept carefully separate from family knowledge. Friday morning, I arrived early. Made sure the space looked professional, clean desk, framed property photos on walls, Luna Holdings logo prominent, wore a blazer, pulled my hair back, looked like someone in control. My parents arrived at 10 sharp. I watched from the inner office as they walked through the lobby, their expressions confused. This is it? Mom said to the receptionist I'd hired for the occasion. This is Luna Holdings? Yes, ma'am. Miss Chen will see you shortly. Chen? Dad's voice, suspicious. Who's Chen? The receptionist smiled. The owner, please, have a seat. I waited 5 minutes. Let them sit with confusion. Then I walked out. The moment froze like a photograph. My mother's face draining of color. My father's expression cycling through confusion, recognition, disbelief. The receptionist trying not to smile. Hi, Mom. Dad, thanks for coming. Emma? Mom's voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing here? I work here. I own this company. Dad stood up, defensive now. This is Luna Holdings? Yes. You? You're the one buying up our neighborhood? Not just buying, owning, developing, managing. I walked to my desk, pulled out a folder. Would you like to see the portfolio? He grabbed the folder, opened it, flipped through property deeds, all stamped with Luna Holdings, all listing me as managing member. His hands shook slightly. This is, you own these? 18 properties total, 9 through Luna Holdings. 6 of those are on or adjacent to Oakmont Avenue, including the empty lot 2 doors from your house, the duplex across the street, the commercial building at the corner. I paused. Basically, I own your entire street. Mom sat down heavily. How? Hard work, smart investments. 7 years of building while you assumed I'd failed. Dad was still staring at the papers. This isn't possible. You were living in that crummy apartment. I still live there. Real estate investors don't waste money on appearances. We invest capital in assets, not image. I pulled out another document. Your property, 2847 Oakmont Avenue. Current zoning just changed to mixed commercial residential. Your property value increased, approximately 40% in the last 6 months. Dad looked up, wary now. So you should probably update your insurance, review your property taxes, and be aware that the neighborhood association, which I now chair, has new maintenance standards. Nothing unreasonable. Just keeping the street looking nice. You're charging us fees? Standard neighborhood association dues. Everyone pays the same rate. I'm offering you a very fair renewal contract. I slid papers across the desk. Same terms as every other property owner. He didn't take the papers. This is revenge. This is business. If it were revenge, I'd be a lot less professional about it. Mom spoke finally, voice shaking. You did all this to hurt us? I did this because 7 years ago, you came to my apartment and made me feel like garbage. Then you went to dinner and celebrated having one successful child. That night, I realized I'd been chasing your approval my whole life. So, I stopped, started building something for myself instead. We didn't mean you meant it. You've always meant it. I'm just the child who finally stopped needing you to take it back. Dad exploded. You wouldn't have any of this without us. The work ethic, the discipline that came from our family. The work ethic came from wanting to escape being compared to Marcus for 30 years. The discipline came from knowing I'd never be enough in your eyes no matter what I achieved. And the capital? Every penny came from jobs you told me were beneath me, from that crummy apartment you mocked, from living small so I could build big. He threw the folder on my desk. This is all luck. Market timing. You bought during a crash that's not genius, it's coincidence. I opened my laptop, turned it to face them. Here's my purchase history. Property by property. When I bought, what I paid, current value, the duplex I lost money on, the foreclosures I bought during COVID while everyone else was panicking, the zoning, research that showed Oakmont Avenue was undervalued. I pulled up more files. Here's my financial modeling, risk analysis, market projections. This wasn't luck. This was 7 years of work you never saw because you assumed I'd failed. Mom was crying now. You're humiliating us. I'm asking you to sign a standard neighborhood contract. Same one every property owner signed. If that's humiliating, maybe examine why you feel entitled to special treatment just because you're my parents. We're not just your parents. You're right. You're the people who taught me I wasn't good enough. Thank you for that. It was excellent motivation. Word spread fast. Small community, smaller gossip circle. Within a week, everyone on Oakmont Avenue knew the mysterious Luna Holdings owner was Emma Chen, the daughter who disappeared and somehow bought the entire street. Marcus called. First time in years. Emma, what the hell? Mom's crying, Dad won't talk about it, and people are calling me, asking what's going on. I bought property. That's what's going on. You're destroying the family reputation. What reputation? The one where I don't exist except as a cautionary tale? That's not fair. Neither was being excluded from your engagement party announcement photos. Neither was 4 years of silence while you became the golden child and I became the disappointment you didn't mention. Silence. Then, quietly, I need a favor. Of course you do. Some of my investors are nervous. The publicity about Luna Holdings, they're connecting it to our family. Stock price dropped 3%. Can you make a statement saying this isn't personal? No. Emma, please. This affects my company. You're Marcus Chen, the 28-year-old genius who revolutionized cloud storage. Figure it out. I'll pay you. Name your price. That stopped me. What? For silence. For a statement. For whatever makes this go away. I'll pay. You're serious? Completely. I laughed. Couldn't help. You want to pay me to fix your reputation problem because Mom and Dad's embarrassment is hurting your stock price? Yes. Okay, I'll help you. Really? Under contract, market rate consulting fee, proper legal agreement, not compassion, not family loyalty, business. Fine, whatever, just fix this. I wrote up a contract that evening, charged him $50,000 for reputation management consulting. He signed without reading carefully. I issued one neutral public statement, and his stock stabilized. Best money I ever made. Mom showed up at my office a month later. Alone, unannounced, looking smaller than I remembered. Can we talk? Just us? I gestured to a chair. She sat carefully, hands folded in her lap like a reprimanded child. I've been thinking a lot. About what you said. About how we treated you. I waited. We didn't know you'd make it. That sounds terrible, but it's true. You were always so different from Marcus. He was focused, ambitious in ways we understood. You were creative, abstract. Your father and I worried constantly that you'd struggle. So you made sure I did by constantly telling me I wasn't good enough? We thought we were protecting you, toughing you up, preparing you for a world that wouldn't be kind to someone who dreams too much. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourselves from having a daughter who didn't fit your definition of success. She wiped her eyes. You're right, and I'm sorry, truly sorry. Not because you're successful now, but because we should have supported you when you had nothing. I didn't have nothing. I had myself. That was enough. Is it too late to fix this? I thought about it. Really thought. I don't know. I stopped needing your love years ago. But I still wanted your respect. Maybe that's what makes it complicated. Do you respect yourself now? Yes. Then maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what I should have taught you from the beginning, not to need our approval, just to build your own. We sat in silence, not quite reconciled, not quite enemies, just two people who'd finally told each other the truth. The magazine feature came 3 months later. The woman who bought her parents' street, how Emma Chen built a real estate empire from rejection. The article went viral, thousands of shares. Comment sections exploded with people sharing their own family rejection stories, their own journeys building success from spite. Public opinion split. Some called me inspirational, others called me vindictive. I didn't care about either label. I'd stopped performing for audiences. My father refused all interview requests. The shame of being outmaneuvered by the daughter he dismissed was too much. Mom gave one interview tearful, apologetic, claiming she was proud even if she'd never shown it. Marcus's company recovered. He sent me a thank you note with the consulting check. We weren't close, probably never would be, but we were cordial. That was progress. Garrison called, "You did it. Built something they'll never forget." I built something I'll never forget. They're just witnesses. Even better. I bought one more property on Oakmont Avenue, the corner lot that had been abandoned for a decade. Planned to develop it into something useful instead of just profitable. The Luna Center opened a year later. Modern building, glass and steel, built on the corner lot I'd renovated. Ground floor, co-working spaces for women entrepreneurs. Second floor, free workshops on property management, investing, financial literacy. Named after my grandmother, naturally. The opening ceremony was small but meaningful. Local business owners, women who'd taken the workshops, Garrison standing in the back looking proud. My parents came. I'd invited them surprisingly. They stood awkwardly near the entrance, unsure whether they belonged. During my speech, I thanked Garrison, my team, the community. Then I paused. This building stands on Oakmont Avenue because 7 years ago, someone made me feel small in a tiny apartment. They thought they were showing me my failure. Really, they were showing me my foundation. I met my parents' eyes across the room. So, thank you for underestimating me. It gave me something to build from. Applause. Some people crying. My mother wiping her eyes. Afterward, Dad approached. It's impressive. What you've built. Thank you. I don't know how to fix what we broke. Maybe you can't. Maybe broken doesn't always get fixed. Maybe it just gets acknowledged. He nodded. Can I help? With the center? I still know construction, maintenance. I could volunteer. I studied him, saw genuine regret, also saw 7 years of dismissal, mockery, absence. Let me think about it. Fair enough. A year later, I visited my parents. First time in their home since Marcus's engagement party 3 years earlier. They'd aged grayer, softer, humbler. We had lunch, talked about neutral things, weather, neighborhood changes. The Luna Center's expansion. Avoided the deeper wounds that hadn't fully healed and maybe never would. After lunch, I helped Mom to her car. She was recovering from a minor surgery, moving slower than before. Thank you for coming, she said. I know we don't deserve your time. You're my parents. That doesn't stop meaning something just because it's complicated. We drove down Oakmont Avenue slowly. I looked at the properties, the duplex, where I'd lost money, the empty lot that had been my first Luna Holdings purchase, the corner where the Luna Center now stood, my street, built from the foundation of their rejection. Do you regret it? Mom asked quietly. Being so hard on us? I wasn't hard on you. I just stopped being soft on myself. That's a good answer. We pulled up to my building, not the tiny apartment anymore, but a modest condo I'd bought once the portfolio was stable. Still not flashy. Still not designed to impress. "Emma?" Mom called as I got. "Your father and I are proud. I know it's too late for that to matter, but we are. It matters," I said. "Just not the way it used to." I waved as she drove away, went inside, made tea. Sat in my living room looking at the framed deed to my first property, the duplex disaster that had taught me everything. 7 years ago, they'd called my apartment a place where ambition goes to die. They'd been wrong. It was where ambition was born. I whispered to Grandma Luna's memory. They called it a crummy apartment. I called it my first foundation. Outside, the city lights sparkled. Inside, I felt something I'd never felt in 39 years. Complete. Not because my family finally approved. Because I'd built a life that didn't require their approval to be real. The street was mine. The success was mine. The peace was mine. And that, finally, was enough.